Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The hum of the washing machine masked the sound of the door opening. I was bent over, sorting damp clothes, the thin fabric of my oversized t-shirt brushing against my thighs. It clung slightly from the steam, tracing more than it should. I thought I was alone until I felt it. A gentle nudge against my hips. Firm. Deliberate. Still. My breath caught. For a second, I didn't move. Couldn't. The soft scent of his cologne wrapped around me, clean soap, something warm, like sandalwood. I straightened just slightly, not turning yet, heart pounding too loud in my chest. Was it an accident? That was the lie I told myself. But he didn't pull back. Didn't mean to startle you. His voice was low, almost amused, like he knew what that moment had done to me. My fingers still gripped the towel, too tight. I felt the heat from his body behind me, too close for comfort, yet somehow, I didn't step away either. "You always do laundry like this?" he asked, teasing, eyes flicking down and back up before I dared to glance his way. That look. Dark, curious, sharp enough to slice right through all the little rules we both pretended to follow. I finally turned, slowly, meeting his gaze. And in that small, charged silence, something cracked. The usual jokes, the playful distance, the safe little bubble we danced inside, it thinned. And just for a second, it felt like he might say something he couldn't take back. But then a crash upstairs. A door slamming. We both jumped, like someone had just splashed cold water on a flame. I looked away first, pretending to reach for the detergent. "You should go," I said, too casually. He didn't move. "And now you want to know what happens next, don't you?" There's something strange about silence in a house that used to be full of noise. He moved in last summer. A surprise no one had really planned for. His father's sudden overseas transfer left him here, finishing college locally. I said yes before I thought too much about it. It was just temporary. Just helping out. Just harmless. But the truth is, the quiet started long before he arrived. Long before the goodnight kisses turned into polite nods and morning coffee became a ritual I performed alone. I didn't plan to notice him. At first, it was just the basics. Reminders about laundry, fridge notes, casual dinners that barely lasted 10 minutes. He stayed mostly in his room, headphones on, books sprawled out. I stayed in mine, folding laundry or reading half-finished novels just to keep from thinking too much. But then things shifted. It wasn't one big moment. It was smaller than that, barely their glances that lasted too long, the way he'd lean against the counter when I cooked, watching more than helping. The way I'd find excuses to walk past the living room when he was there, pretending to look for my charger or dust the same shelf twice. One evening, I asked how his classes were going. He really looked at me for the first time. "They're fine. But it's weird being here," he said, shrugging. "Like, I don't belong." The way he said it hit somewhere deep. Because I knew the feeling too well. "You do belong," I said, softer than I meant to. His smile was crooked. "Do you?" I didn't answer. Since then, something's been hanging in the air between us. Not said, not acted upon, but felt. In the way his fingers would brush mine when we passed each other dishes. The way he'd hold eye contact a second longer than necessary. The way I'd forget what I was saying mid-sentence when he looked at me that way. I told myself it was just loneliness. Just curiosity. Just nothing. But after the laundry room moment, I couldn't keep lying to myself. That night, I stood by my window, lights off, watching the street. Wondering if he was thinking about it too. Wondering if he knew how fast my heart had been beating. Wondering what would have happened if the noise upstairs hadn't stopped us. We both knew a line had been crossed. But neither of us had said a word. It started small, like it always does. A laugh that lingered a bit too long. A glance from him that held something darker when he saw me texting someone back. I wasn't trying to make him jealous. But maybe. I wasn't trying not to either. Last Friday, I came down in a new dress. Nothing too dramatic. Just soft, clinging in the right places, a little lower at the back than usual. I had plans, real ones, but the second I saw the way his eyes locked onto me from across the kitchen, the air between us shifted like a storm waiting to break. "You going out?" he asked, trying to sound casual as he poured coffee, but I caught the tightness in his voice. "Dinner with a friend," I said, slow and breezy. He didn't look up, just nodded. But his grip on the mug was a little too firm. "A guy?" he asked, pretending to reach for sugar, like the answer didn't matter. I didn't answer right away. Let the silence stretch. "Does it matter?" This time, he looked at me, eyes sharp, unreadable. "No, just asking." But something in the way he said it made my skin tingle. Later that night, I came home early. I shouldn't have. I knew he'd still be awake. He was shirt off, sprawled on the living room couch, half watching something, half waiting. His jaw tensed when he saw me. "Back so soon," he said, voice low, almost challenging. I shrugged, kicking off my heels. "Plans changed." "Or maybe," he said, slowly sitting up, "you knew I'd still be here." That landed between us like a spark on dry wood. I froze, every nerve lit up. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't teasing. And I wasn't sure I could keep pretending anymore. The rain came down harder than expected. We were supposed to be gone by now, separate errands, separate plans. But the storm rolled in fast, and the power blinked out right after dinner. Thunder cracked, lights gone, and just like that, the silence swallowed the house. I lit a candle in the kitchen, the flicker casting long shadows. He walked in a moment later, damp from the porch, water dripping down his neck. His shirt clung to his chest, wet in places, his hair tousled, eyes darker than usual. "No signal." "Roads are flooded," he said, voice low. "Of course they are." I handed him a towel, avoiding his gaze too long, afraid of what might be waiting there. He didn't take it right away. Instead, his fingers brushed mine. Warm. Intentional. Just like in the laundry room. "Storm's wild tonight," I said, turning toward the window to distract myself, the flickering candle making my reflection dance. "Yeah," he murmured, stepping closer. "But not the wildest thing in this house." I turned sharply. "Don't." "Why not?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper, stepping closer, invading my space until I could feel the heat radiating off his body. "You keep acting like this is nothing, but I know you feel it too." My breath caught. His hand hovered near my waist, not touching, but so close it burned. Just one move. Just one breath. And the line we hadn't crossed would be gone. The storm rattled the windows, but it was nothing compared to the thunder inside me. "We can't," I whispered, eyes locked on his. "But we want to," he said, not backing away. The candle flickered between us, casting light and shadow across our faces. Every second stretched longer, tighter, more dangerous. And then, someone knocked at the door. We both froze. The knock on the door echoed like a warning shot. We both stood frozen in that narrow space between want and regret, hearts pounding, breaths held. I moved first, clutching the candle, voice tighter than I wanted. "I'll get it." But he didn't move away. Instead, he reached out, finally letting his hand rest on my waist. Gently. Like a promise and a question all at once. "You don't have to pretend anymore," he whispered. The knock came again, louder this time. Whoever was outside had no idea the storm wasn't the only thing crashing tonight. I slipped out from under his touch and opened the door. It was him. My husband. Drenched from the storm, briefcase in one hand, suitcase in the other. "I caught an early flight," he said, stepping inside, dripping on the floor. Surprise. It was the kind of surprise that turns your stomach inside out. My stepson, his son, stiffened beside me, backing up just slightly, like a string had snapped inside him. But not before my husband's eyes caught the flicker of something between us. A pause. A breath too long. A distance that meant too little. He looked at me, then at him. Then back again. "Everything okay here?" I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just the storm." His smile was strained. Weird." I texted, "But your phone was off." "Power's out," I lied. He turned to his son. Good to see you, man. You've been settling in all right? The younger man nodded. Yeah, just adjusting. The rest of the night was a blur of tension so thick it could choke. I cleaned up, my hands trembling as I stacked dishes. My husband took a shower. And he stood outside the kitchen, leaning against the doorframe, watching me. I didn't know he was coming back early, I whispered when we crossed paths again. I don't care, he said. I meant what I said. His eyes were fierce, sure, and full of something that made my chest ache. I can't, I started. You already did, he said, voice low. Even if you never touch me again. The next morning, a message lit up my phone. A photo. From an unknown number. It was of us. In the kitchen. Too close. Too obvious. The photo changed everything. It sat on my phone like a ticking bomb. No text. No name. Just the image, me and him. Too close, too exposed. Candlelight catching that unspoken electricity between us. By breakfast, the storm had passed, but the damage wasn't done raining down yet. He sat at the table, scrolling his phone, face unreadable. My husband poured coffee in the kitchen, lips tight, eyes darting between us. The tension was volcanic. I barely spoke. Every move felt choreographed, careful. The clink of the spoon against the cup. The forced smile. The crack in my voice when I asked if anyone wanted toast. But the silence didn't last long. When were you going to tell me? My husband asked, calm, but the kind of calm that comes just before everything explodes. I froze. He lifted his phone, turned the screen toward me. The photo. My blood ran cold. Who sent this? I asked, voice shaking. He didn't answer. Just looked at his son. You want to explain this? He asked, tone shifting. Because it looks like you've been spending a lot of time with my wife. The young man stood, eyes dark but unflinching. And you haven't. My husband's face twisted. Excuse me? You left her alone in this house, he said, steady, voice rising with every word. Alone and invisible. You didn't see her. But I did. I stepped in. Please stop, no, he said, turning to me. You don't have to protect him anymore. You don't owe him that. My husband's voice turned sharp. Is this what it is now? You're blaming me for this. He laughed bitterly, pointing at the image again. I don't even know who either of you are anymore. I didn't plan this, I whispered. I didn't want to feel something. But I did. And you haven't looked at me like a woman in years. That silenced him. He walked out. Door slammed so hard the windows rattled. And suddenly, it was quiet again. He walked over to me, took my trembling hand. I'm not sorry, he said softly. Not for seeing you. And neither was I. Whatever happened next, we'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, but maybe, just maybe, it was the first real thing either of us had felt in a long time. The house felt different now. Not empty, but cleared. As if the silence had finally stopped screaming, and what was left behind was something quieter, softer, honest. My husband hadn't called. And maybe that was his answer. No storm, no apology, just distance. And in some strange way, I wasn't angry. I think we both knew it was over long before anyone said it out loud. But what surprised me most was what stayed. It had been days since everything exploded. Since the photo, the confrontation, the choice. He didn't pressure me, didn't ask me to pick. He just gave me space until I realized I didn't want space anymore. I found him in the garden that evening. The sun was setting, painting gold across the back fence. He was watering the roses, bare arms tanned from the past few days of pretending to be busy. His head turned slightly when he heard me, but he didn't speak. I walked up behind him, heart pounding, but not from fear this time. From certainty. I didn't expect to feel this way, I said, quietly. He turned. That look again. The one that started it all. But I do, I continued. And I'm not scared of it anymore. He stepped closer, hand brushing mine. You sure? He whispered. I nodded. We've already survived the worst part, fighting it. That broke his restraint. His arms wrapped around me, slow and strong. His forehead rested against mine. For once, no tension. No hiding. Just this. Us. And in that quiet, I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a beginning.